Morning. Happy Thanksgiving to all my American friends out there. Hope you're all having a good morning, getting ready for some turkey. I might just run to my grocery store and grab a turkey and just cook one in celebration with you guys as well while we watch some football today. 3 games. Love NFL. This week, or this year, is not the greatest slate. All 6 teams. I think this is the first time since like the 70s possibly where all 6 teams coming into Thanksgiving are coming off a loss. I'm not even sure if that's happened before, but I thought I heard something about the 70s. So pretty crazy there. We're going to talk some prize picks plays. We're going to talk some DraftKings plays. We're going to talk some bets, some fan share ownership. Throw up all your questions in chat. Make sure to smash up that like button. Morning, Mike. Thanks for tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving to you, buddy. Make sure to smash up that like button. And for anyone that is new here, the sheet is free. The Thanksgiving Day sheet is free for everyone. The link is just above in the chat, so make sure to click on that, and we will definitely help you out. I got some plays on there. I've got rankings at each position. I've got notes, highlighted plays, and we're going to talk some plays here now. So let's have a look. First of all, I wanted to mention and shout out Prize Picks here. They do have an awesome promo today. It's a 99% discount. Hey, what's up, Dane? Easton. Oh, I know your company name. That's awesome, man. I think you got your logo made from the same person I did. So thanks for that, Deli. And happy Sunday, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you got a good day planned as well there, Dane. But yeah, Prize Picks today, 99% discount on Josh Allen's passing yards. So he literally throws for 1 passing yard. That is a completed over. So that's a freebie today. Absolutely love that. So make sure to get over. If you're new to Prize Picks, what you do over at Prize Picks, you pick 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 plays, and you either go over under on their projection, and then you either choose at the bottom a flex play or a power play. A flex play allows you to get 1 wrong, but doesn't give you as good of odds, versus a power play, you need to get all of them right. If you're new, use promo code Jaeger. You'll get 100% deposit match up to $100. The link is also in the description below. So let's jump over to the sheet here. First game up, we've got Chicago. So what I'm going to be doing, I got a live show for every game today. Today I'm going to talk kind of the overall slate, as well as some showdown plays possibly for the Chicago-Detroit game. And then the other 2 shows, Vegas at Dallas, Buffalo at New Orleans. We'll just be talking some Prize Picks plays, some bets, and some showdown plays. So make sure to tune in for those as well. All right, so Chicago's 2.5-point favorites here. We do have some news. We'll go over a couple of that. We'll go through the positions here for the day. At running back, Kamara is out. Looks like Ingram is probably trending towards doubtful. We're not going to know on that. That is the late game, but right now I'm playing it as he is going to be out. That brings Tony Jones Jr. into play here at running back today. I'm going to put him there. It's obviously dependent on that Ingram news, so pay attention for that as we go through the day. Moving into wide receivers, Lamb and Cooper are out for Dallas. Allen Robinson is out for Chicago in this one, and Cephas is out for Detroit as well. Zeke Pollard combo for main slate. No, I don't think that's too bad. I mean, Las Vegas, when you look at running backs, Dane, what they do against running backs, I don't have that one up here. But if we just slide over and look at it, it's going to cost you about $15.3 on DraftKings. So the price is up there. Zeke and Pollard. Going to cost you, about 12.6. So they're 27th in against running backs, 3rd most rushing yards. If this turns into be, Dallas huge bounce back game where they win by 14, 17 points, something like that, we could see between those two, upwards of 30, 35 rushes. They could possibly go heavy on that, especially if they can get up early. That's tough to say. There's a lot more risk now that Lamb, as well as Cooper are out. So there's definitely some risk there. But for GPPs, I don't mind it if they go heavy. I'll talk about some Tony Pollard and what I like about him here just shortly. As for tight ends, Trotman is out. That's going to bring Nick Vannett. It's tough, though. Nick Vannett and Juwan Johnson's kind of pick one. The DFSR projections and the overall projections here that I got smashed into the sheet. Prefer Vannett a little bit more, but both are viable punt plays at tight end. Kind of just take your pick there. Johnson's had a little more work, 8-1. Vannett came over, I believe. I'm not sure exactly. He's kind of been around, but I know he was with Seattle in the past, pass catcher. And I know if we go look at his game log from last week. I know, yeah, he caught his one target for 20 yards. So it's good to see him at least out there in his first game over. Where that split's going to come in, I'm really not sure. So for the overall main slate here, I've got my rankings up, seeing as the sheet's free to everyone, and I will pop over to that tab. I've got Josh Allen at the top, obviously, versus New Orleans. Dak Prescott second. Downgrade a little bit, probably even more towards GPP only with his two top options out. Derek Carr is a value play. Again, tough matchup going against Dallas, number 3 DVOA defense. Quarterbacks are like averaging something like 210 yards passing over the last 3-4 weeks against Dallas. So it is a little bit of a tough matchup, but Carr is nice and cheap if you want to. I don't think we necessarily need to go there. I was kind of trending that way in cash to try and fit Lamb in. Well, Lamb's not playing now. So I think we just pay up in cash games, especially just pay up for Josh Allen. And roll with that chalk and go with it. GPPs, I like pivoting to either of these two. You can get fancy as well if we go look at quarterback. They're not currently in my personal player pool, but Andy Dalton makes sense. I mean, he's only 5,500, 11 for 23 last week, but a couple of touchdowns. You're kind of looking, I could see him, depending, you kind of got to guess. I think David Montgomery is obviously going to be chalk. We'll talk about running back rankings first, but if you wanted to make that pivot, fade David Montgomery, possibly thinking he only goes maybe 50 yards, no touchdowns, whereas Dalton maybe throws 250, 2 to 3 touchdowns at possible low ownership. That's going to be a good pivot there as well. Not really into Jared Goff versus Chicago or Semien versus Buffalo. So that's kind of the way I reside right now. So I'm just kind of going to build out my cash game lineup as we go along here. We'll move into running backs now. I've got Swift up top. Like I wrote here, he's an underdog, but has extremely explosive, especially over the last 2 weeks. And this is all despite an overall lack of offense and touches. He's not getting the touches of some of these other running backs, but he's making the most, I believe, looking at Happy Thanksgiving, Liz. Hope you're having a great day. Sucks NASCAR's over. It's nice seeing you in the show, though. That's absolutely amazing. Thanks for tuning in. Wishing us happy Thanksgiving. Not sure if you're playing NFL today. If you are, throw up some questions. If not, just tune in and I'll kind of go over my rankings here. They're going to change in a bit. And Kenny, good morning, buddy. How's it going? In chat talking about some of his GPP plays. He's a master at multi-entering construction, so make sure to hit him up there as well. Okay, so moving on to running backs, DeAndre Swift. When it comes to fantasy points per touch, because he doesn't get although he doesn't get the volume of others, he is absolutely elite on the fantasy touch basis. He's top 5 in the league, right up there with some of those top running backs. So I'm definitely on Swift today. I really like that in Chicago's rushed. They're a little bit better against the pass. All right, so David Montgomery's number 2. Kind of risky having both running backs in this first game, but these are my 2 favorites, especially points per dollar wise when it comes to price. David Montgomery's only $6K. He's dominated the touch share in his 2 games back. Faces a Detroit team. They're 29th in DVOA versus the run and giving up the 2nd most total yards and 3rd most fantasy points to running backs. It's just a great matchup for Montgomery. He's getting healthier each and every week. He's getting elite touch share in their offense. So I definitely like David Montgomery up there as my number 2. Elliott would be number 3. It's an elite spot. I think they're not as big of favorites now. Let's go back and just check that out here real quick. Yeah, there's still 7.5 point favorites in the game with a 51 total, almost a touchdown higher spread than any other game. So him and Pollard are going to get work. I favor Elliott, and I think he's going to be GPP only. I'm really keying in on Swift and Montgomery as my top 2 running backs in cash. I'm going to go throw that in here right now. And then Zeke is going to be a GPP pivot for me. I could see using him in cash. I'm totally fine with it. I think there's enough value out there where you can pay top dollar for a running back today. But I'm paying for Josh Allen and Diggs, who is my top wide receiver as we transition over to that. Number 2 would be Darnell Mooney. So I'm going to go and throw those 2 guys in here and see how things are starting to shape up. In terms of defenses today, I think you could go punt Detroit versus Chicago. I think that makes sense at 2400. They're all pretty cheap today, so you just kind of got to take a stand. The Bears, they're going up against Goff. You could go with either in that first game, not 100% there. I really like the Cowboys defense. When we start breaking it down, they've got upside of touchdowns, obviously. Look at their defensive defensive touchdowns in their last 6, but sacks 3-2-4 in their last 3 weeks here. So they got a pretty stable floor. They're not really expensive, so we can fit them. And if I'm punting, I'm probably going Detroit. And just the reason I like Detroit here, and I did write that up, I believe, top points per dollar defense. They're cheap. The Bears have given up a league-high 36 sacks. And while Detroit doesn't have a lot of sacks, as you can tell here, only 2 over their last 4 games, I think they can be able to get multiple. This is one of those games where they get 2 to 3, and I think that's a solid floor at 2,400. But if you find when you're constructing your lineups you can move up, I would definitely try and move up if possible. I do like the Bears. Look, 10 sacks over the last 2 games going up against Detroit, who is, what did I write here? Bears are number 1 in sacks. Detroit's given up the 8th most sacks. So that's only 600 more. It's a huge amount more on FanDuel. So on FanDuel, it's Detroit for sure. 1,300 savings there. But on DraftKings, it's a little bit closer. You kind of take your pick. Same with Dallas. You can kind of just pick one of those 3. But if you do need that extra 600 in savings, I'm totally fine with Detroit. So I'm just going to plug them in first of all and kind of see where we get to. Tight end. Go to the sheet first of all. A couple places I like. Dalton Schultz especially. He's already number 1, but I would upgrade him. He was going to be number 2, and I upgraded him just thinking that Lamb was going to be out. I know Gallup is going to take, and if we just kind of look at wide receivers and tight ends here together, I've got Gallup up at 4. He's probably going to move up to number 3. I'm going to adjust that right now with CeeDee Lamb out. I still like Mooney better at 5,700. Top points per dollar with no Allen Robinson. I think Goodwin is playing, but he was questionable coming in. I haven't been able to check that yet. But he had 16 targets last week, although he didn't catch them all. He got a 60-yard touchdown. That was with Dalton, and I think Chicago is going to throw here. So I think you could even stack. I mean, this is probably more showdown, but Mooney, Dalton, as well as Montgomery, pair all 3 of those together, I think is a good stack for a showdown game in the first one. Yep. Definitely read what Kenny wrote there, everyone. That is awesome. He's got the Bears and Lions as his top 2 and just likes kind of picking 1 or 2 and just kind of, 50-50 in your lineup. So if you build let's just say a Dallas passing game stack, and you have 1 full lineup built, passing game stack, and you've got the Bears, build that same stack out and put the Lions in. Exact same stack if you want to go that way. If you're building lots, obviously, if you're only doing 3 max, that isn't the most optimal way to go about it. But if you're building a 20 max and you're building, say, 10 Dallas stacks, do half with the Bears, half with Detroit, or whatever 2 defenses you end up choosing in that situation today. So yeah, Schultz is number 1. I actually like Schultz over Gallup. I think he's going to be a little bit lower owned. I liked Gallup more with CeeDee Lamb in because he wasn't going to be taking that top coverage, although if we go look at, let's just go over to the actual position tab here and look at Vegas. Yeah, they're 6th in fantasy points against wide receivers. So the matchup wasn't great to begin with, and he's going to get top coverage now. So I do like Dalton Schultz in this situation. I do like Cedric Wilson as a pivot here as well. So keep that in mind. So if we just go plug Schultz in, that's going to leave us pretty thin here. We're going to have to get pretty much a punt wide receiver. And there's a couple options today, to be honest with you, at wide receiver. Maybe not for cash games so much, but Desean Jackson is now, what would this be, his 3rd game, I believe, with Las Vegas. So he's a deep threat. I know there's a ton of upside there if he gets his offensive snaps. And just while I'm going over that, I'm going to bring up the snap percentage chart from last week because I also wanted to check that out for Josh Reynolds. I'm almost positive Josh Reynolds for Detroit last week was out there over 90% of the snaps. I just wanted to double check on that before we confirm, because he is the other. Yeah, he was out there 90% of the offensive snaps last week. He did get 3 targets, didn't catch anything. But them being shorthanded, I think he makes a viable punt play at min price. Him and Desean Jackson, one or the other. If you're building out 150 lineups today, I'd probably have 10% of those guys and just like half and half of each, like split them, Desean and Reynolds. I think both have deep threat upside. They only take 1 catch. 1 catch for either of them can absolutely crush their value on both sides, especially for showdowns here. They're both very cheap, so keep that in mind. But Cedric Wilson would be my top. top value play that I think we can trust in cash games. And I also wanted to check out Desean Jackson's last 2 weeks and his. Oh, now I'm messing things up. Let's go week 11. And we want to sort by wide receiver. Jackson. Okay, so 34% of snaps last week for Desean. But the week before, I believe it was only like 5 snaps or something like that. Yeah, 9 snaps for 17%. So he doubled his snap share from last week. He probably gets up in that 50% range this week. And if he gets up to that 50-60% offensive snap share this week, I think we could see 3 to 4 targets. And like I said, he's a player that only needs 1. What I like about Reynolds more is that he saw 90% of the snap share offensive snaps for Detroit last week and got 3 targets. So we've seen that targets come along for Reynolds. So I like him a little bit more than Jackson, but both viable for deep threat GPP punt plays today. Malik Turner with Lamb and Cooper out becomes a nice value in Showdown as well. His price in Showdown, $400 on DraftKings. I think you can definitely go that route as your punt. He's going to be like the number 3, number 2 passing option in that offense, or passing wide receiver. I think Schultz is going to be the number 2 option. Wilson number 3, Turner number 4 overall, but still at $400 on Showdown. He's even min price, but still I do like Josh Reynolds a little bit more for safety. I probably like Turner more than Desean Jackson, but I like the upside of Jackson there as well. Traquan Smith would be my favorite New Orleans wide receiver today. Buffalo, he's right top overall points per dollar value. Cole Beasley fits in there too. I mean, we're riding with Josh Allen cash. I do like going Diggs first of all. There's enough value to make it work. But if you're going away, I think Cole Beasley makes sense there possibly, and then Emmanuel Sanders as well. Probably more of a GPP play for me on Sanders, but I definitely like him as well. Happy Thanksgiving, Travis. Thanks for tuning in. Truly appreciate it. And then over at tight end, it's Waller or Schultz. I prefer Schultz just because of the price difference. If you're paying up, obviously, if you're going Josh Allen and Diggs, you're probably not going to be able to get Darren Waller unless you probably have like 4 punt plays. Not really into that. I think that lowers your overall projected fantasy points. But if you're going away from the top QB and top wide receiver, I think Waller and Carr would be good together. And then for Vegas, Hunter Renfro, I didn't talk about him yet. He's always one of my favorites. The price is up a bit. I mean, it's still only $5,662 on FanDuel. He's just so reliable each and every week. And I say that he had an off week last week. He only got 4 targets, caught all 4 of them, but didn't hit values like 7 points or something like that. I think he gets back today. I think Las Vegas has to throw 40 to 50 times here. So this is where the Carr GPP stack comes in. And if you are putting Carr and you think he's going to throw 40 plus times today, 300 plus yards, multiple touchdowns in a scenario like that, it's definitely Waller and a pass catcher for me. Renfro would be number 1. Like I said, Desean Jackson's cheap enough where you can throw him in with a Waller and Carr stack and just get that added upside should he get one of those 2. Any thoughts on straight up picks today, spread or money line? I'm not betting much in terms of the games today. One that kind of stands out to me, I do like Detroit to get their first win today. They are 2.5 point on the spread. That's plus 105. You can take that. I know Chicago is heavily favored here. It's the juices on the minus 2.5 for Chicago. If I was placing a bet, which I'm not on any of the games today, I do like Detroit plus 131 on the money line. I think there's some value there. Just the plus 131. I thought they would be a little bit closer in this game in terms of that money line. The Bears are minus 143, minus 150 in some spots. And then Vegas plus 7.5 is interesting, but it is on the road. I could see Dallas just rolling even without their top 2 wide receivers. Like I said, running 30 to 40 times, just running it all over, keeping the ball away from Carr and that offense. That could definitely be a scenario. So I just don't like that spread of over a touchdown in that one. And then Saints and Bills. Saints are at home, 6.5 point underdogs here. And the juice is pretty even on both sides. I don't really have a feel for that one either, to be honest with you. The over in game 1 definitely makes sense. We're talking about both defenses. And if we're talking about both defenses, I think the under makes a lot of sense. And I think we can still play a defense both running backs in that game and still the under. The running backs can still get there with, especially on DraftKings with the PPR, both catch the ball well as well, Montgomery and Swift. So I think it's not crazy to think that both running backs can get there while playing a defense who could get 2 to 3 and still bet the under. I think that's all available there, all in play, and it's not crazy. Now, if we were stacking wide receiver and quarterback and then betting the under, I don't think that's viable whatsoever. But in the scenario where the 2 running backs, even having Mooney in there, I still see that. But that's the under in that first game stands out. The second game, 51.5 is getting pretty high. The juice is on the under, so people are starting to lean the under. It feels like a lot of the money's going towards the under. And then the Saints in Buffalo right now, I kind of lean the over in that one, to be honest with you. It's tough, though. We need the Saints to score. I think Buffalo's going to get theirs, especially through the air. New Orleans is number 1, although last week didn't affect their number 1 rank in DVOA versus the rush. They are much better versus the run overall, not just looking at last week's dud versus Philly. But Buffalo, they don't necessarily run the ball well anyways, so I think they'll be throwing lots. And New Orleans, I believe, is 14th or 15th in DVOA versus the pass. So that's only league average, but still, they're a lot better versus the run than the pass. So right now, I do lean that game possibly going towards the over 45 in that one right now. So that's what I have in terms of bets. I'm not on any of them right now, but that's where I'm looking. And then in terms of prize picks, my top plays, if you've already checked out my TikTok this morning, we've got a TikTok I've got a personal one, and then make sure to check that. I've got some funny shit on there. Wife doesn't think so, but I definitely thought it was funny. Anyways, I've got a Jaeger Bombs Fantasy Sports TikTok set up. I'm doing a bunch of 15, 30 second, 60 second clips every day, two or three a day kind of thing. Get out some quick hitter videos, and I will go over my top prize picks plays here as well. Obviously, Josh Allen over that half a passing yard. It's a $25 limit on that Josh Allen. If he's included in any of your props today, prop cards, it is a $25 limit on that. So I'm going to be going $25. And then I usually just play a 2-play power plays, like a cash game type play. And my top 2 plays here are going to be Tony Pollard over 35.5 rushing yards. Dane's going to love this. I hope you're still tuned in here, Dane. I told you I'd bring up some Tony Pollard stuff. He's gone over 35.5 rushing games this season. And Las Vegas has allowed the 7th most rushing yards to running backs this season. So I absolutely love that spot. Dallas is missing their top 2 wide receivers. So I think they get some extra volume to the running backs today. I could see 30 to 40 touches from these guys. We do need rushing yards, keep in mind. But if they get the lead, I see especially like a 7 to 10 point lead, possibly somewhere in the second half. I could see probably 5 to 10 rush attempts from Pollard in the second half alone. So I do like that prop. And I was surprised to see when I seen that at 35.5, and Zeke, I think, is at 58 or 59, something like that. Just give me a second here. Seen that prop at 35.5, and then kind of looked at the Vegas odds on some of them. I'm just going to bring that up now. I don't think we're going to get props. I'm not sure if my site listed. Yeah, they got it up here. Okay, so player rushing yards in that game. They don't have it up yet, but let's go over to Bet365. Let's change this to player rushing yards. Tony Pollard, right there. They've got it set at 42.5. So that's 7 yards you got. In terms of Vegas props versus prize picks props. He's been over in 7 of 9. You've got Vegas being 7th most rushing yards to running backs. I absolutely love that. And then Jimmy Graham. This one's interesting, but I'm rocking and rolling with it. 4.5 yards that just jumped off the page to me, so I dug in a little bit. In his last 2 games, I will not be playing him in DFS, but I do love the prop here at 4.5 passing yards. He's got 6 targets over the last 2 games for the Bears. He's gone over 25 yards in both of them. Like 1 for 28 there, 2 for 25 there. He just needs pretty much 1 catch because he's catching the ball. I think his average or his ADOT in those 2 games, you could probably figure it out pretty quick, but I'm not going to. It's right around that 10 to 12 yards. He's getting down the field and he's getting 3 targets a game, over 25 and 2 straight. And Vegas props, I believe, if I seen it, are around 7.5 on that. So that's one that it doesn't, I don't want to say it's a free play. It's a free square, because it's not. He could get 0 targets today and absolutely suck. But the trends are definitely pointing us that way. Yeah, he doesn't even have a receiving. Oh, that's receptions. Okay, so let's go receiving yards. He should have one here. Nope. Oh, yeah, Jimmy Graham, 7.5 yards we have for a prop. So that's where I'm rolling with Prize Picks. Pollard over 35.5 rush yards. Jimmy Graham over 4.5 passing yards. And then, of course, the freebie, Josh Allen over 0.5 passing yards. Power play, $25 for 125. Let's lock that in. Projections have changed. It doesn't matter with Prize Picks. So Tony Pollard is now at 40.5 with that news. Let's go look at those trends. So he's gone over in 2 straight, 3 of his last 5. Yeah, okay. So I'm 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5, 6, 7 of his last 9 games. So he's still gone over. The prop over trend is still there. It's just gone up. He's going to have to give you 5 more yards on that. I think he gets somewhere in the 50 yards, 45 to 60 yard range. That's kind of what I'm going to project him at. So I'm totally fine with that going up to 4.5. I'm going to lock in that $25 power play. Now you can enter in other Josh Allen throughout the day, but the max bet is going to be $25. Keep that in mind. All right. Any more questions? We've got a couple more minutes here. I'm going to look at some Prize Picks ownership, or some Prize Picks fan share sports ownership here. Give a look at the board here. I've got it sorted by price. Dak Prescott's actually number 1 in tags on this slate, although I would expect personally Josh Allen to be number 1 in ownership. They do too. Same kind of projections as I have in terms, or rankings in terms of the quarterback position. So the quarterback position is pretty simplified today. Only 3 real options, a 4th if you want to get real crazy. But when this happens, and we're going to see 2 very high-owned quarterbacks, kind of making that pivot can be huge, although you really do need those high-owned quarterbacks to not have that 300-yard or 3 to 4 touchdown game, or you're pretty much washed up early. So, but if you got Andy Dalton, if you're running Andy Dalton and Darnell Mooney today, which that's one of my top stacks for GPPs, it's going to be lower owned. And if you all of a sudden get to that Dallas game, Dak is, let's say he's upwards of 250 passing yards and 1 touchdown. You've got the Zeke side or the Tony Pollard side, plus your Chicago passing stack. You're going to be pretty happy going into that final game of the night, and you're probably going to want to start maybe hedging with some Buffalo Prize Picks or props, or betting props or something like that, because you're probably going to be looking good going into that night game with your contrarian pick there. So going to know after the first game if that contrarian stuff's going to work or not. So let's go look at running back here in terms of popularity. Got this in terms of price. Happy Thanksgiving, Jonathan. How are you, buddy? I seen you DM'd me lineup. I will have a look at your lineups once I finish the show here. I think, what do we got till game time? Half an hour? 45 minutes till game time. I'll have a look here. I'm going to wrap up the show in about 5-10 minutes here. So make sure to get those last minute questions in. Another play that could be interesting today. Ty Montgomery for New Orleans. If Ingram actually does get ruled out, I haven't, this again is going to be the night game. Didn't play last week. Got 1 rushing attempt the week before. There's not a lot there, but it just could be like a GPP play. Now, he was hurt, but he did practice in full this week. So he should be back to, I would think, full health, being that he's a full participant in practice all week. So that's just more of a GPP dart again, if you want to go that route. All right, no more questions. Happy Thanksgiving, Robert. Appreciate you popping in to see the show. Again, reminder for anyone that is not a member, Jägerbombs Fantasy Sports, if you scroll up to the top of the chat here, you will find the link to the NFL sheet this week for the Thanksgiving Day slate. It is free. And give me 2 seconds here. If you are not a member and want to get in or get our Week 12 sheet for Sunday and Monday slate, make sure that I just posted the link there. It's $10 a month for NFL package, $20 a month for all sports. We cover 10 plus sports. Head over to patreon.com/JagerBombs. I will see you all in the winning picks later after game 1. And then going into game 2, reminder that the show will be, I believe I got it set for 3:15 p.m. Eastern for game 2. I'll be sharing it in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in winning picks.